Hi, I'm Stephanie Harris Byers, and this is the Book Channel Online. We're here today at the Harlem Fine Arts Show, and my guest is the most distinguished Nell Irvin Painter. We're here to talk about her new book, Old in Art School. She is the author of
The History of White People.
You were an educator. You decided to go back to school.
Yes.
And become an artist. So what was that process like?
It was hell. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Getting a PhD in history at Harvard was a piece of cake in comparison.
Really? Why?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, in the academic world, there are rules and standards. You know, other people read your stuff and they tell you got this kind of established mores, and you can move through steps. So it's kind of scientific in a way. In art, anything goes. If somebody will buy it, it's good art. Now, artists will tell you, no. We know good art when we see it. There's great art, and you can tell. But nobody agrees on what's great art.
Well,
and exactly.
Right.
And so here I was, this poor little old person, and by definition, because I was a poor little old person, old woman, I couldn't possibly make good art.
So who makes that standard? Who says that you couldn't possibly make good art? Because is there some level of, Van Gogh-ish or, that constitutes art?
No.
Right. It's like it's coloring outside the lines, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Is it your journey? Is it a memoir?
It's a memoir. It's a memoir of starting over. And it's about a really humbling process. And moving through that humbling process, I was a wreck by the time I finished my MFA at the Rhode Island School of Design. And a few years later, I have recovered, and I've recovered a lot. But it was a process that I don't know if I would have done it if I had known what it was. It was soul destroying.
How long did it take you?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, 3 years undergraduate at Mason Gross at Rutgers for a BFA, and then 2 years of graduate school at the Rhode Island School of Design. I should have taken some time out between those two. And I have a chapter called A Bad Decision, because it was a bad decision.
Tell us why. Tell us why it was a bad decision.
It was a bad decision because I made it as my mother was dying, and I was exhausted, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was a terrible artist. I mean, I really was a terrible artist. I was just beside myself. And, my mother was dying 3,000 miles away, and my father was depressed. So I was going back and forth across the country.
You're from California, right?
I'm from Oakland. So there was all this going on. My knee was hurting, my back was hurting, I was exhausted, and that is no condition to make a big decision. I mean, if you just go to the internet and ask, should I make a big decision now? The internet will say no.
That's right. Okay, so you muddled through because why? Because you
wanted to.
Simple as that.
And when I got far enough in, and I was really pissed, I am going to slit my wrist. I'm gonna blow up the Rhode Island School of Design. This friggin', but I'm not going to give them the satisfaction.
So it was that type thing. You're just not a quitter.
That's right.
You're just not a
right.
quitter.
That's why I kept going. And in retrospect, I'm really glad that I wrote that chapter called A Bad Decision, because it says to my readers, you can make mistakes.
That's right.
I mean, I'm still here.
Yeah, you survived.
Yes.
And you will survive.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone in their second act?
Well, just do it, but no, it's going to be really hard, and have your priorities straight. So one of the things I was in my graduate school in particular, I was with a cohort. We were being trained to be hot young white male artists in tight clothes. And I couldn't possibly be a hot young white male artist in tight clothes. I couldn't do any part of that. And I had to learn how to separate myself from the just assumed values that I was being educated within. It was hard to do. It was really hard to do.
So are you a better artist now?
I'm a better artist, but I am the world's uncoolest artist.
Well, no. I am funky.
I am the world's uncool. Take my word for it.
I will, but I don't believe it. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at you, and you ooze confidence, and smarts, and all the things that most people wish that they had.
There's also a chapter called "Look Like an Artist."
Okay, tell us about it. No, tell us about it.
So, professors, for instance, wear tasteful clothes. And for heaven's sakes, they don't wear cowboy boots. And for a long time, I just disdained cowboy boots as an affectation, which they are. But artists curate their appearance. And professors don't do that. In fact, professors kind of look down on that as being shallow and showing that your intellect is not functioning all the time. But artists have to look like artists and have to act like artists. Artists have to drink.
I'm an artist.
Okay, first step. So it's all a part of paying attention to things that I didn't used to pay attention to. And it's also kind of nice and a really freedom. I mean, this is the reason I wanted to do it, for the freedom. As a scholar, I I love history. I still love history. I love research. I love writing. But there's a relationship that a historian has to the archive that is respectful. You can't pretend that it's different from what it is. You have to work within what the past leaves for you to work with. As an artist, you don't have to. If you wrote a letter and I was writing your biography as a historian, I would have to deal with that. I don't have to as an artist. If I don't like what you said, to hell with it.
As a professor, so you've got this artist and this professor living within yourself. What's that dichotomy like?
It took me a long time to figure that out. When people first asked me that, I said basically, duh, I don't know. But what art has done for me is let me focus in on things, on small things, and ask questions I know I couldn't possibly have an answer for, but just because they're interesting, not to ask, is an event or a person representative of something larger? Now, is it interesting? Does it hold my attention?
Will you read something for us from your book?
This is the preface, and it's called "You'll Never Be an Artist," and it reoccurs later on where it is in the history. The world of Rhode Island School of Design and the world of my former academic life rarely overlapped. But some RISD people, like my printmaking teacher Rhonda, inhabited both realms and didn't pretend my book didn't exist. Chatting with her in Benson Hall one day after my printmaking class, I seized a rare opportunity in art school to brag about my writing, because the writing didn't matter. To wit, my Sunday morning wonder of wonders, my book reviewed on the front page of the New York Times Book Review. The New York Times Book Review. Front page review. Oh, la 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 la. Rhonda recognized this as every writer's dream, a once-in-a-lifetime, true-to-life coup. She ran me downstairs to share my miracle with her teacher colleague, Sharon. Passing the printmaking office on our way to Sharon, we ran into Teacher Henry, standing outside the doorway of his faculty office. A distraction from wonder, the reminder of a beef. Teacher Henry had given me an A-, bad graduate school grade, and called me dogged, a put down, not an appreciation of persistence. Recognizing insult, I had called him out over dogged. Henry's malevolent magnetic field pulled me off course. Instead of rejoicing over my amazing good fortune with Sharon and Randa, I resumed my fight with Henry. This was stupid of me, I know, even though I was right and he was wrong. Henry did not back down. He doubled down. He insisted he had to say what he believed, what he knew to be true. You may show your work. You may have a gallery. You may sell your work. You may have collectors, but you will never be an artist. Why not? Because I lacked an essential component, some ineffable inner quality necessary to be truly an artist. I recognized Henry's logic of being as complete, unalloyed bullshit. I said, Henry, that's bullshit.
And that is why you graduated, and that is why you kept going, and that is why we are so fortunate to have a wonderful woman like yourself amongst us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, really.
And that is Nell Irvin Painter. I'm Stephanie Harris Byers, and this is the Book Channel Online.